I'm itching to start myself anyway, so do you know what I mean? It's a bit weird doing it via a stream rather than, you know, just doing a straight video about it. But I do want to get everybody else's opinion on this. I do want to get everybody else involved in regards to this, because I think it is a big issue, and I think it's becoming more and more of a growing issue within the music industry, especially in recent years, where a lot more artists are being a lot more personal about themselves and the lives that they're living and stuff like that. So, but you know what spurred it on for me was what happened over the New Year, Christmas and New Year period. I had a bit of a mental breakdown, and it seemed like it came out of nowhere and stuff. But actually thinking back and looking back and thinking about it, like, you know, it definitely didn't come out of nowhere. There definitely was a cause to the effect, so to speak. But to start off with, you know, to begin with, me myself, like, I suffer from depression. Doctors call it severe depression, as well as PTSD. I'll definitely be talking about the depression side of it, but I want to touch more on the PTSD side of it, because I don't think that side of mental health is really talked about that much. Yet it can, like, the two things I've realised with post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, is that it can happen to anybody at any time, at any age. Like, it, PTSD, when the effects of this actually happens, it does not matter where you are in life, whether you're happy, sad, whatever, it does not matter at all. You can get these symptoms. And the reason why I say that is because of the nature of post-traumatic stress disorder. That comes from going through a really traumatic situation. PTSD is closely tied to, you know, the main sufferers of post-traumatic stress disorder is people that have come from war, you know, army veterans, like people that have been in the army, navy, and actually had to serve for their country and stuff like that. That's who a lot of people mainly think of when you think of post-traumatic stress disorder. But the truth is, it can happen at any time. Yeah, it's mainly war veterans and people like that, but also people that are involved in gangs and have to see, you know, shootings, stabbings, you know, a lot of violence on a regular basis. But also it can be anything from, you know, seeing your dog getting run over, you know, that could be a traumatic situation, and you could have, you know, symptoms of PTSD from that. You know, car crash victims, rape victims, you know, victims of abuse, you know, anything where it is a hugely unsettling and shocking thing for your mind and your body to deal with. You know, so that's where abuse comes into it, rape comes into it, car crash, you know, you lose a limb or anything like that. Anything horrific or abusive or hugely traumatic on your mind can cause you to have symptoms from post-traumatic stress disorder. How it affects me is, you know, I went through a traumatic situation, and how it affects me is I have nightmares, I have flashbacks, I have, you know, periods of psychosis where I see things relating to the traumatic situation, you know, when they're not supposed to be there. You know, like I can be in a club, you know, at you know 2-3 o'clock in the morning, loud music blaring, and I can hear something that relates to that situation, clear as day, even though I know I should not be, do you know what I mean, hearing that kind of thing and stuff. So, you know, there's a lot of ways you can get post-traumatic stress disorder. And the reason why I also say at any age as well, like, I know I've been dealing with depression since, say, 10 years old, when I realised certain things about myself and my family and, you know, stuff like that at that age. But I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder 10 years ago, and that was because of a situation that I went through. You know, So when you think about it like that, you know, it starts to come to mind how many people you may know that might be suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, because you know that they've gone through a really horrific, traumatizing situation. Do you know what I mean? That you know, people don't have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, on a regular basis. Do you know what I mean? But that's how it affects me. I end up having nightmares about the situation, periods of psychosis, flashbacks, and things like that. And I've been able to get the support with it, and I've been going to therapy for like the last year and a half as a result of that. But the reason why I bring this up in regards to music as well is how it affects music for me is, you know, there are points in time, and I'll relate like depression to this as well, because there are points in time where music can be everything. Do you know what I mean? I'm so into music, I'm so in love with making it, this, that, and the other. You know, it can be the greatest escape. Do you know what I mean? But it can, at times, it can also make me question the shit out of my existence. Because with music and with being creative, the main thing that every musician wants is to be heard. They want as many people to be listening to their music as they possibly can. Whether you want the fame that comes with it or not, or anything like that, that's the main goal. You want your music to be able to touch other people, do you know what I mean, in a way that connects with them, in a way that they can take it away and they can use it for, you know, their sad times, happy times, you know, energetic times, gym times, and all that kind of stuff. You know, there's a piece of music for every single emotion that is out there. But when you're in the music industry and you're trying to make it, so to speak, you can't help yourself but compare yourself to other people that are within the scene. Obviously, you want to look to them for inspiration and see how they're doing things, and you know what's working for them, and see if that can work for you as well. Everybody does that. Everybody draws inspiration from so many different pockets and facets within the music scene. But when you have to deal with depression, as well as PTSD, do you know what I mean? And I'll talk about where PTSD comes into it more so than depression, because depression is so much more of a broad scope, and it is directly tied to PTSD as well. But when it comes to PTSD and making music, especially if you're a performer of some sort or anything like that, these things can end up being either a major distraction for you. So let's talk about the last sort of 3-4 months leading up to New Year's, Christmas and New Year's, where I ended up having a bit of a mental breakdown. You know, things were going so well in terms of music. Like, I was getting featured on podcasts, like my music's being played in like festivals and this, that and the other. You end up getting so wrapped up into the momentum of how well you are doing, how well your music is doing. You know, you don't want anything to sort of break you out of that sort of really feel good bubble that you're in. Do you know what I mean? So you push to stay in that area where, as it seems, mental health is not touching this area. You're free to do what you want. You're free to, you know, create, reach other people, this, that and the other. Like, you're in this music bubble, but you don't realize how much of a major distraction music is, and how much it's pushing away. It's just keeping the mental health demon down for only so long. And if you keep ignoring it, it ends up just breaking through and biting you on your ass. And that's what ended up happening to me over, you know, the Christmas and New Year period. Because there's times where you're so wrapped up in how well things are going, do you know what I mean? Or how well you feel you're doing within your music. Like, you could just be in the spot where you're finally getting to a point where there's consistency with your music, or you finally figured out how to make drums do this, or your bass line do that, or whatever. Wherever you feel like you're happiest within music. If you have a mental health disorder, there's two things like that I've noticed with mental health. One, especially with PTSD, one, it will never let you forget. PTSD will never let you forget that you have got PTSD. It will rear its ugly head in some way, shape or form. And as I said, for me, it's either nightmares, flashbacks, periods of psychosis and things like that, and then with depression on top of that, where, you don't have much confidence in yourself. You don't have much self-esteem. Do you know what I mean? You don't have much in terms of, love for yourself, in that sense, because you're depressed. And as much as things can be going so well, you still sat back thinking, why do I feel like this though? Why am I not happy with this actually happening? Like, I've wanted this to happen for so long in certain aspects, but your brain is not letting you enjoy it. Do you know what I mean? You end up feeling like, why? Do you know what I mean? Everyone else around you can be like, oh, you're doing so well. Oh, I'm so happy for you. Yeah, you've been waiting for this. This is your time, and all that kind of good shit. But for some reason, your brain is just like, nah, mate. What the fuck you want about? What you celebrating for? You ain't got fuck all to celebrate. You've got nothing to celebrate about. You ain't shit. You don't like. Did you start questioning it? Is it real? Are people being genuine when they're saying these things to me, or are they just saying it for the sake of saying it and shit? And your brain, you end up overthinking your mind into oblivion, because the depression is just digging away at you, digging away at anything that you feel is coming to you. Do you know what I mean? That whether you feel you deserve it or it's out of the blue and you're just overwhelmed with it. Mental health has a way of twisting all of these things into negatives that aren't even really there. Do you know what I mean? And and I don't mean that in a sense of, it's all just in your head. Do you know what I mean? But it's just the mental gymnastics that depression, especially PTSD, do you know what I mean, can make your mind have. Do you know what I mean? Just trying to understand whether something that is good, that you feel is great for you, is actually happening for you. Like, it's crazy. It's sometimes it can be so hard to describe, because it just doesn't make sense to you itself. Do you know what I mean? It just doesn't make any sense to why this is actually happening in your brain. And do you know what I mean? I don't think it, as much as the scientific reason of it being the chemical imbalance in your brain, do you know what I mean, is one way of describing it. I think it's just a lot more broader than that. Like, in terms of my depression, over the years, I've realised that it's really deep rooted. It's really, really deep rooted. This goes back to probably to when I was 7, 8 years old, and I started to notice certain things within my household that weren't as they were before, and I started to notice that I was different in certain ways, in certain aspects. Do you know what I mean? And then over the years, I would realise why I was different. So like depression for me has been very, very deep rooted, and something that I've had to deal with, like, throughout the most of my sort of teenage and adult life. So when it comes to situations like this, this is why I'm always so humble when it comes to music, because at the end of the day, it can go so fast. All this hype and this praise and all that kind of good stuff, it can be here today and gone tomorrow. So I have to appreciate it and appreciate the people, taking the time out of whatever they're doing to let me know that they enjoy something that I'm doing. Do you know what I mean? But on the outside of that, things can, like I said before, things could be going so well. Like, I had an amazing year last year. I had the best year in music that I've ever had, and I've been involved in music in the Manchester scene for nearly 18 years now. Do you know what I mean? But last year was the best year I ever could have had. I've reached bucket list goals that I never thought I was going to reach last year, like getting on Rinse FM, having a feature on a Hospital Records podcast, my music being played at Boomtown, maybe not by myself, but by my peers that I actually look up to. Do you know what I mean? They're playing my music, do you know what I mean? Or a tune that's got my vocal on it. Do you know what I mean? It's being heard by thousands of people. You know, I released my first ever drum and bass EP to like really good feedback, really good acclaim. Do you know what I mean? I was able to do my first ever couple of remixes for people, and that went really far. You know, like I was on Unity Radio twice within the last year. Do you know what I mean? Like these are all things that I never thought that I would reach. So to anybody else, you would think, yeah, man, things are going great, and that should feed the soul. That should feed, you know, the good vibes in you and keep the depression and the negative thoughts at bay. It's not. It's just not that simple. It's not that simple. I'm not gonna say it's never like that, because it can. It can. It can feed the soul. It can give you that boost that you need. That spring in your step to be like, yeah, I can deal with this now. Do you know what I mean? But sometimes it's just not that simple, because if you haven't got that balance of dealing with everything outside of your hobby, your obsession, your passion, the thing that you want to do the most out of everything else in the world, if everything else behind it is still a mess, then that's always going to come back and rear its ugly head and put the fear in you that it's going to end up messing up everything else that you've got going good for you at that moment in time. And that was the scary thing for me. Like, I really thought that this was going to mess up the momentum that I'd had. Do you know what I mean? And I just didn't know how to handle it. And then I'm looking at everything that I've done wrong, you know, or everything that I've not kept up with, like, because I was missing therapy sessions, I was missing sessions with my counsellor, I was missing sessions with my support worker, and again, that's the flip side to depression as well. If you've got something going so well, you don't want something like a therapy session where you have to talk about the traumatic situation that you went through. You had to talk about, you know, the times that you were feeling down, the times that you were feeling upset. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have to go through that as a ways of finding ways to deal with those times where it gets overwhelming, you know. But at this moment in time, like, I'm doing mixes, I'm really making tunes and like doing some bookings and here and there and shit. Do you know what I mean? So I'm happy because all of this is going well. I don't want to go back to the thing that's going to remind me of the shit that gives me this mental health issue in the first place. But I have to do that to be able to find ways to deal with these issues that I've got. Do you know what I mean? So then you end up sort of self-sabotaging yourself. Do you know what I mean? You end up putting things that you need to do on the back burner because you want to do more of the shit that you enjoy. And I felt like I kind of lost the balance of that last year. Like, I started off the year really well. I was going to my therapy sessions, I was meeting up with my support worker. They were hard sessions, but you know, I was dealing with it. You know, it would put me out of commission for a couple of days because I've gone through that therapy session. Like CBT, in terms of the therapy sessions that I was dealing with, yeah, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, is one of them. So what that is you talk about the traumatic situation that you went through, or you talk about the situations that, you know, give you depression, you know, and you try and figure out ways of, okay, so if you get to a point where you're having an anxiety attack, or, you know, a panic attack, or, you know, you're kind of just too lost in your thoughts to the point where, you know, you're having suicidal thoughts or thoughts of self-harm, you know, talking about these things and then figuring out ways of getting you out of that moment. So bringing yourself back into the moment. So, you know, you like myself, I could have a nightmare, I wake up from the nightmare, but all I've got on my head is the nightmare, is that night when I went. Do you know what I mean? That flashback, that's all that's in my head, and it's making me feel horrible. It's making me feel like doing things to stop hearing what I'm hearing or seeing what I'm seeing and stuff. You know, what my therapist, one of the techniques that my therapist told me was to, you know, think of a safe space for yourself. So my safe space was, you know, a spaceship pod. I would have incense burning, I would have a certain CD of music playing, you know, and because of the silence of space, the vastness of space, the sort of isolation that I would be in. I'm so far away from whatever was troubling me on earth. Because I'm in this pod, I feel safe. I feel like I'm back in the moment and I've got control of my mind again, kind of thing, you know. So they're the skills and the exercises that I'm trying to learn, you know, focusing on your breathing, you know, what does it feel like when the air goes into your lungs, and, you know, things like that, like mindfulness. Do you know what I mean? So I'm learning all of these skills, and we're getting more advanced and more advanced into the thing. And the closer and closer we get to the nitty gritty, the root of the problem, the more anxious I am that I don't really want to go there. I know I have to go there, but I don't really want to go there. Couple that with everyone's buzzing off my music right now. Things are going great. You know, I'm being asked to do this and do that, and I'm feeling great from all of this. That makes me feel like I don't want to go to therapy, because therapy is going to bring me back down again, and I'm going to be depressed again because I'm thinking about that again. And also the flip side of it as well is, it took 10 years for me to realise, one, that there was something seriously wrong with me, and two, for the doctors to realise that there was something seriously wrong with me in terms of diagnosing me with severe depression and PTSD. So for 10 years, I've been dealing with this anyway, not knowing really what's going on. And I'm trying to talk to my friends, but some of my friends, it's just too much for them to listen to. And most of the time, I'm feeling like it's too much for me to put on my friends, like what I went through, you know. But over time, you end up talking about it and talking about it and talking about it. And then you get to a point where you feel like you've talked about it enough that you don't want to talk about it anymore. You don't want to talk to anybody about it. So you go into your therapist, and you know that all you're going to do is talk about that situation. So as soon as you come out of therapy, and this is no dig to any of my friends at all, but maybe this will help some, you know, my friends understand. But I've ended up talking about it so much that I don't want to talk about it with my friends. I don't want to talk about it with my family. I don't want to talk about it with anybody. I'm at that point where, or at least I was at that point over Christmas and New Year, where it was bad enough that I was talking to my therapist about it, or at least I'm avoiding talking to my therapist about it. So again, I'm ending the thing that made it a problem in the first place, me bottling it up all inside and not talking to anybody. Inadvertently, I'm going back to that point. Like, I've talked about it enough. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Like, there's all these different sort of like mental gymnastics that you end up going through, as well as trying to deal with music, because music is everybody's escape. If you're involved in music and creating music and being a part of the music scene, whether it's writing bars, whether it's DJing, whether it's producing, whether it's laying down vocals, singing, promoting, either, and it's a passion of yours, do you know what I mean? Even outside of music, when you've got something that is your passion, that gives you so much joy, and then you've got this hairy demon that is just constantly on your back, it just won't go away. It's just constantly on your back. But you found this thing that keeps him at bay for a little bit. You want that so much that you just forget about everything else. Do you know what I mean? And I just completely forgot about that balance. I was so wrapped up in trying to keep this good feeling coming from music. Do you know what I mean? It can almost be a drug. Music can almost be a drug at times as well, where you willingly just throw yourself into it and you don't care about anything else. It's just total tunnel vision in terms of just dealing with music, that things end up falling by the wayside, man. Do you know what I mean? It's like and I see it so much in other DJs and MCs that are in the scene. Like, I remember not long ago, Mampy Swift put up a post where he was going to do a live stream talking about mental health and his journey with mental health, because he ended up taking some time away the same way that I ended up taking some time away. I had to take 2 years away from everything to do with music, just to be able to just get some sort of level playing field in my life. Do you know what I mean? Like depression and PTSD had affected me so much to the point where I became homeless for 6 months, you know, and I'm just on you know, my friends and family's couches and stuff, and I'm staying with family, and it's getting to the point that me and my family members are arguing and falling out and stuff. But you know, when you're homeless or when you've not got a place of your own, and you're at the whims of everybody else, you feel helpless. You do feel like your life is not your own, you know. And then you end up getting desperate, like I did. I ended up getting desperate, and I ended up taking any place that was available for me, because I didn't have any money at the time, and it was horrible. The place was disgusting. Like, it was being used as a brothel at the same time that I was living there. The conditions were horrible. We didn't really have a communal area or a communal kitchen. There was repairs that were needed all over the place and stuff like that. But I was desperate. I didn't have a house or anything like that. So I had to take that place, and that can add to your mental health as well. Do you know what I mean? And that can hinder, you know, any aspirations that you feel like you have. Do you know what I mean? And like I said, like a year ago, maybe just over a year ago now, I was at a point where I was about ready to just completely give up on music. And imagine that. I'm about ready to give up on music. I'm going to quit. I'm not going to make any beats. I'm not going to write any lyrics. I'm not going to be a part of the scene anymore. I'm done with music. I'm going to try and live a normal life. Whatever normal is. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've got to try and live a normal life. And it took one of my good friends ringing me and being like, put this project out. I know you're umming and ahhing about this project. Put this project out, because if you don't, you're not going to make music again. And that just put the fear of God in me. Do you know what I mean? So imagine being at that point, and then throughout that next year, everything that you wanted to achieve, or most things that you wanted to achieve, and the level that you wanted to get to, and the peers recognizing you the way that you've always wanted them to recognize you, do you know what I mean, happens in that year. Of course you're going to forget about any sort of mental health problems that you've got, or you're going to want to, at least. You're not going to want anything at all to spoil what's happening. Do you know what I mean? And shit. So, of course you're going to end up like putting yourself in that bubble and letting things go by the wayside. But if there's anything that I can say, you know, if there's anything that any advice that I can give, do you know what I mean, is you know, as hard as it may be, trying to find that balance, just try and find that balance. Like, too much of a good thing is too much. Do you know what I mean? Something is going to give, something is going to break. And, you know, first and foremost, your mental health, physical health, spiritual health, you know, all those things are important and should be important to you. And you need to keep on top of them. You know, this year was like a massive, you know, the end of this year was like a massive eye-opener for me, because I couldn't understand it. I just could not understand why, you know, at the start of the new year, I'm feeling like absolute shit. I'm feeling horrible when everything is screaming that I should be feeling great. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm selling t-shirts with my lyrics on them. I've got t-shirts with my bars on them. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've always wanted that shit. Do you know what I mean? These things, great things are happening. Do you know, like, you know, but for some reason my brain is like, nah, dickhead, shut up. You're going to stay in bed all day today. I'm not going to let you leave. You know what, tomorrow, I'll see how you're feeling it. Tomorrow comes, nah, G, you're staying in your bed. You got to look up at the ceiling and think you're a fucking knobhead for the rest of the day. Like, just for real, that's all I felt. Like, New Year's Day and the day after, I just completely crashed, mate. Completely crashed. And it's because I realised that I'm not living a balanced life. Do you know what I mean? I need to find that balance again. Do you know what I mean? And it's hard. It is hard. Because, you know, I felt like that's the other scary thing as well. things going so great, you're feeling so good, there's that danger of you convincing yourself, I'm alright now, I'm happy, this is making me happy. You're not thinking about like it's only gotta be for a time, or this, you still have to do so much to maintain this high that you're getting, and you flirt so dangerously close to being like, I'm alright now, I'm happy, so I'm not depressed anymore, and this doesn't bother me anymore. It's not the case. It's not the case. Especially with PTSD. Like I said, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, will not let you forget. It won't. It won't. You went through a traumatic situation for you to begin suffering these symptoms. It's not going to let you forget. And I don't think it's ever going to let me forget. And that's the like, the sort of like bittersweet side of it. Over time you will learn like skills and stuff to be able to help you deal with it along the way, but it's hard coming to terms with the fact that it's never going to go away. Do you know what I mean? And like I said, like war veterans, rape victims, victims of abuse, victims of child abuse, if you've been attacked in some way, stabbed, shot, seen somebody else shot, seen somebody else die in front of you, like, or run over or mangled, or these are all things that can bring on post-traumatic stress disorder. And like I said at the beginning, it can happen to anybody at any time, at any age. Like if you think about, like, say, elderly people, that have their houses robbed and they end up getting attacked. Do you know what I mean? And you see the pictures in the newspaper, black eyes and stuff like that. They're going to be suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. That's going to be a nightmare for them. Every time they, when it gets at night time, they're locking up all the doors and windows and stuff like that. But they're still going to be scared that could happen again to them at any point in time. Especially if they were attacked. Do you know what I mean? You hear it's really quiet in the house. You hear a noise that gets you all jumpy and upset because you think someone's coming through somewhere. Think about rape victims. Do you know what I mean? They go down a certain street where it occurred. That's going to set them off. Saying certain things that the person said at that time. That's going to set them off. Do you know what I mean? Car crash victims. They hear tires screech. That can set them off to like having flashbacks or nightmares and being triggered, as it were. Do you know what I mean? And that, like, there's so many symptoms and negative effects that can happen from suffering such traumatic situations and stuff. Do you know what I mean? That even people that like I was saying before, people that are in gangs, do you know what I mean, seeing their best friend get killed, get stabbed and things like that. Yeah, like it even spills over into hip hop. Like a lot of hip hop is hip hop from the streets, trap music, gangster rap and stuff like that. A lot of these people are dealing with some sort of mental health disorder or post-traumatic stress disorder because they're seeing those types of things that normal people don't see every day. Do you know what I mean? Or have to live through and shit. Even people that have suffered like racial discrimination, so they get beaten up because of the colour of their skin. That happened to me when I was younger, do you know what I mean? So I developed a thing where, around white people, I had to be alert, do you know what I mean? And things like that. That's because I had so many different times where I didn't even need to do anything. I'd just say hello and then I'd get beaten up just because I was black. And it was called this, that and the other and stuff like that. This is why I want to talk about post-traumatic stress disorder a bit more than just depression, because if you know somebody that has been through a horrific situation like any of them that I've described, they may be dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder and might not even know it. Do you know what I mean? Certain behaviours that they will exhibit after, like especially if it's somebody that you've known for years. Do you know what I mean? Before the incident, they were a certain way. After the incident, something changed and they weren't the same anymore, and certain things they wouldn't do, and that's post-traumatic stress disorder. That is PTSD in its more or less basic form. Like say you saw your family dog get run over. Do you know what I mean? That happened to a friend of mine, and as a result of that, he would never have a dog again. He never owned a dog again because he was too scared that something like that would happen to something that he got so close to. Do you know what I mean? And shit, like you know, I think it's something that's overlooked quite often because it's so closely associated to army veterans, people that have been at war, because obviously they're going to be the main sort of sufferers because they have to deal with that. They have to go to a war and either shoot a gun and kill somebody or see people get killed, like see women, children as well as men get blown up, shot to death, you know, bombed, and you know, all that kind of stuff. So of course, you know, they're going to be sort of the front line of sufferers of PTSD. But when you think about it, and when you think about, you know, a lot of the traumas that women have gone through in terms of abuse, you know, when you think about a lot of the traumas that men have gone through in terms of, you know, abuse in prison, like that's something that is still rife and still not talked about enough. You know what I mean? Like male rape is a real thing. Do you know what I mean? But when you think about it, you know, there's a lot of situations where, you know, people could be suffering with that mental disorder as well as anxiety, depression, bipolar, you know, schizophrenia and things like that. Like PTSD could be a lot more common, you know, than we think, you know. But yeah, I mean, that's my side of things. That's my story in terms of that. And you know, it'd be good to hear other people's side of things. You know what I mean? So, you know, if you've got anything, you know, to add, let me know in the chat. But I'm gonna go through some of the comments in the chat. Do you know what I mean? Because I can see a lot of people have been posting and stuff. But Josh, yes, Mark, yes, Jenny, yes, man. More people needed to do things like this. Respect, thank you. Do you know what I mean? It's exactly what I was thinking. James Dalgleshi, I think. Respect. These subjects need to be raised more. I think so, most definitely. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm like, especially within music, because you'd be surprised. Do you know what I mean? How many musicians actually suffering from, you know, mental health disorders within the music industry. Respect, you know, more people need to talk about this, bro. Loving the hair, thank you. Loved your advice. However, you talented at what you do. Balance it and do your talent. Do that. Okay. Nice one, Nicola. Thanks for that. It really does. I'm dealing with an elderly person lost their soulmate. It's stress. Yeah, it is. That's it as well. Like even just losing somebody. Do you know what I mean? Oh, here we go. It can be just losing somebody special. It can be abuse. It can be something that shocks the system. Most definitely. And that's what I mean. It can happen at. That's why, again, it can happen at any time to anybody. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not trying to say that like it's a bigger issue than any of the other mental health disorders, you know, that are out there. But you know, I just don't think it's talked about enough. I think it's related too much to just one situation, one aspect being, you know, war and things like that. But you know, there's people, like, if you think about it, there's people that you read news stories about, you know, a man being attacked in the local chippy, or this house being broken into and the owner was attacked, or you know, or the amount of times that, you know, rapes occur. Do you know what I mean? But they're not reported to the police. Do you know what I mean? For fear of it being somebody that they know, or fear of, you know, even more repercussions, or you know, or even the ones, like, especially the ones that, like, in some way their mind has been twisted into thinking that it's their fault. Do you know what I mean? Or you know, just things like that. Like I can say, especially coming from the Jamaican family, and I may upset some Jamaicans by talking about this, but you know what? I don't really care. I can say that near enough every woman within my family has suffered some form of abuse at the hands of a man. So nearly every woman in my family, that's my gran, my mum, my sisters, my aunties, nearly every woman in my family is dealing with some form of PTSD, some level of PTSD. I'll go even further than that. If you look at, like, say, hip hop, like, it's been a thing where people have been looking back at hip hop and how, you know, degrading towards women hip hop is, and, you know, things like that. And it can't be denied, really and truly. If you're going to deny it, then you're sort of making excuses for something that you might as well say that you condone. But there is a lot of female degradation within hip hop, and it's not like it doesn't come from a real place. It does come from a real place. There are higher numbers of domestic abuse cases within black households and people of colour's households than any others. Like, for real. Like, you can check that. I don't even need to check the stats for that. Like, it's well known. Do you know what I mean? So think about it in that sense. Do you know what I mean? Gotta read some comments. Peter Tiger, Tandy. I think this is an issue across the underground scene, event scene. It's great you're talking about this. It needs highlighting, and people should be there for each other. All it takes is a hug and a gun convo to help somebody with their deepest issues. Not cure, but help. Be there and help another. I agree with that, most definitely. But when you're the person that's suffering, it's hard. It's hard for you to get to that stage. Like again, coming from a Jamaican household, Jamaicans, we don't like airing our dirty laundry. We don't like letting the rest of the world know that we've got problems. Do you know what I mean? Not that we would just like let the rest of the world know, like I am right now, that we've got problems, but, you know, airing our dirty laundry. You know, there is that male toxicity side, that toxic masculinity side of, you know, man up and all that kind of good stuff. You know what I mean? So for a long time, I was taught to, like, keep my issues to myself, you know, bottle it up inside. I'm the oldest of 5 kids. Do you know what I mean? The dad ain't around, stepdad ain't around, so I'm man of the house kind of thing. I've got to lead by example and all that kind of good stuff. Do you know what I mean? But that's something that runs rife within males, within, like, the male population, really. Do you know what I mean? So when it comes to talking to your friends, talking to anybody about your problems, first, it's hard to do that as it is anyway. Because not necessarily because you're a man, but you don't want to be seen as weak in any way, shape or form. Do you know what I mean? Whether it's to your friends or anything like that, because, you know, people prey on the weak sometimes. Like I know there's an element of this video that I'm doing now where some people may see this video and think I'm weak because I'm talking about these things, you know, and want to ridicule me for that fact. But I'm prepared for that fact. You're not always prepared for it when you're going through your struggles and going through stresses of life and shit like that. Like, do you know what I mean? And because you don't want to seem weak to everybody else, you do bottle all of this up inside. But something has got to give. Something has got to give, and you end up exploding. Do you know what I mean? Maybe on the wrong people, maybe in really bad traumatic ways. Do you know what I mean? But something has to give. Now, I would say where it helped me was talking to somebody that had no history with me, did not know me from Adam, didn't know where I came from, didn't know any of my families, what I do for a living, anything like that. And being able to just offload to them was probably the most exhilarating thing, like, ever. at that moment in time, because there was so much shit that I wanted to say, so much shit that was pent up inside of me, so much shit that like really fucked with my brain. I just didn't know what was going on. I was mad confused, and being able to just blur all of that out. The first time, that was calling the Samaritans. Just calling the Samaritans, because like this was about 2 years ago now. 2 years ago now, and it would have been the third time that I tried to kill myself as well and stuff. But I was in a really dark place. I hated where I was. I hated the flat that I was in. I hated that, you know, my relationship with my fiance at the time had completely broken down. I hated that I was having all of these flashbacks, like everything that was going on around me. Do you know what I mean? I hated the fact that all of this was stopping me doing my music, but at the same time I couldn't write, because all I wanted to write was just depressed, angry shit. I couldn't make any music because all the music I wanted to make was just angry shit. Do you know what I mean? But then I wouldn't do it good enough, and I'd get pissed off and so I hated everything. Like I was literally at that point where I just did not want to be here anymore. But there was no one around for me to talk to. I didn't have any credit in my phone. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, I was isolated. Like everybody, do you know what I mean, that I wanted to be around was, do you know what I mean, so far away. And then the people that were close to me, you know, the relationship had become that rocky that I couldn't even really speak to them anyway. So I'm just stuck in this hole. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, I need to do something. I need to speak to somebody and speak to something. So I rang the Samaritans. And literally I was on the phone for I think about 3.5 hours, and all they did was just listen to me. They didn't say a word. They just listened to me for 3.5 hours, and I got everything that I ever wanted to get. Whether it was malicious to anybody, whether it was downgrading to myself, whether it was, you know, what I felt about other people. Do you know what I mean? What these things that were happening to me? Why am I seeing these things? Why am I having these nightmares? Every single thing that I wanted to get off my chest, I completely got off my chest. You know, and they were fine about it. They were absolutely fine. Like, you know, there was no judgment. There was nothing. There was nothing. It was just literally, you know, how do you feel? You know, and I felt great. Do you know what I mean? I've used them when things have gotten really, really bad. I've used the Samaritans a few times over the last couple of years, because, you know, it's good to have those services there. Do you know what I mean? So yes, definitely speak to somebody, but don't feel that it has to be your family or it has to be your friends. Do you know what I mean? And if you're friends with somebody that is suffering from mental health issues and stuff like that, like, and I'm not using this as like a free pass for myself or anything like that, because I know I'm bad with, you know, letting people in and taking you know help from other people and stuff like that. But if they are, let them come to you in their time, but let them feel like they can come to you. Like, don't stop reaching out and saying I'm here. Do you know what I mean? If you need someone to talk to and stuff, a lot of the time, and I've heard this from other people, do you know what I mean, a lot of the time that becomes a bit of a cliche. Not to downgrade, you know, the intentions of the people that are offering that, but you know, it's said that often that sometimes it can seem like it's just a bit of a cliche thing to say, but you know, when it's really needed, it will mean the world, you know, that you can do it. I'm the worst person to take this advice from, because I just don't talk to my friends about it. There's maybe one or two that I may speak to, but I'm only letting them in so far and stuff. Do you know what I mean? So I'm guilty of that myself. Do you know what I mean? But you know, keep putting those olive branches out there for people, because they will take it eventually. They will, you know. And you know, if you are suffering, it doesn't have to be your friends and family that you speak to. There's the Samaritans, there are therapists that you can go to, but get the help as soon as you possibly can. Like, if you've never had that help, get that help as soon as you possibly can. As soon as you realise that there's something going on in your brain that isn't quite right, do you know what I mean? Speak to your doctor, speak to a counsellor. Like, don't see these things as being tools of weakness, do you know what I mean? Because they're not. That means you're paying attention to your mental health. You're paying attention to yourself. You're looking after yourself by getting this help, by talking to Samaritans, talking to the therapist, by, you know, learning these exercises to like help you, bring you back in the moment when you're in a moment where you're overwhelmed by your own thoughts or overwhelmed by psychosis or anything like that. Like it's not weak for you to get help in terms of looking after yourself. What is weak is not getting the help at all. That's weak because you're letting the thing take over you. You're letting the thing hinder you in some way, shape or form, you know. And that can sound harsh to say, but you know, it is true. It is true. Like, you're letting the mental health issue win. And I know for a lot of people it's gonna be harder, and then for other people it's gonna be easier. But as soon as you can get that help, get that help. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah. I feel like I've been talking for ages, man. But, you know, I hope this made sense to somebody as much as I think it made sense to me, you know. And thank you everybody who's been, you know what I mean, been watching and, you know, listening and stuff like that and sharing. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm gonna try and do these a lot more often. Do you know what I mean? Because I really do what I advocate for, you know, looking after your mental health, and it's something that I see so many times across the board, and even with some people that don't even realize that they're going through or that they have that mental disorder.